Welcome back to Transport Fever 2. I am Rever, and I have learned many things since the last episode. And thank you in part for your advice. Dennis and I had some long conversations on Discord about how to fix the system and kind of ran things forward and tried different things. As much to learn why I was having the problem in the last episode. And there's one thing I want to try to keep things segmentized and not try to do too much at one point because I think it would get too confusing to deal with too many different things and not explain each thing particularly well that I've learned. So let's see what happens. I've paused time because I want to straighten out what I'll call the mess. And I'm not even sure exactly what the most efficient way of doing it is, but please forgive me for that. The other thing that I looked into, Dennis had mentioned that he plays on 1/4 speed. I changed this to 1/4 speed. The end of the last episode was around January of 93. So we're in March. So in effect, since the last episode, if I was on 1 speed, I would have done 5 years, but instead I only did 1 1/4 years. So again, we're at March of 1894, not 1994. And the reason I mention that is I don't think there's any advantage particularly to changing this date down here. If you look, we could change it back to 1, or you could even put it on paused, except for the fact that the vehicles won't become available as quickly, which I think is a good thing because I'd really like to advance within the bounds of kind of how we can make money. Let me know if you guys have an opinion about just going forward with 1/4 speed, at least for a while, because I feel like if we were to come to one of our depots, I feel like I'm in no financial shape to start taking advantage of Baldwin or any other of the trains. Now I have some other things I found, and I'll talk to you about these trains in a second, but one thing that you could note is the lifespan changes. So there's no advantage. Like at first I thought, well, oh, look, the vehicles aren't going to age as much. But if we change this back to 1, right? See how this says 7 years? And let's close it just so it refreshes. And I'm going to buy vehicles. Now look, it's 30 years. So there's no advantage there. The other thing to understand about changing the date, if you guys don't know this already, like if we were to look at the chart, just looking at the chart itself doesn't actually change, right? Like, in other words, these bars it doesn't matter. I've ran it forward at 1 speed just to see what happened, then I ran it forward, and it's basically the same exact thing, except for like this bar now only represents 1/4, because it's 1/4 the speed, where one of these back here, see, this represents an entire year. So it really doesn't change any of the game mechanics to change this date. It just changes the date. And the only thing I can figure out that's really doing for you is changing the time that the vehicles become available. So if we look at Rochester, and I did this, so like now we're at 1/4 speed, or at 1 speed, right? This now becomes per year. But if I come down here, and I'll leave it on 1/4 because I kind of like the idea of getting to play with the vehicles, at least for a little while, slowly in a sense. But if we come here, unlike the vehicle lifespan, this doesn't change. So this becomes the amount it needs in 1/4. And I think that's why they don't ever talk about this being like per year. Because I was wondering, like, well, why wouldn't they kind of state clearly this is the amount per year? Because I was trying to figure that out, like making sure that it's logical, but I just wanted to make sure that was the case. And nowhere, like, do they say, because it might not be per year, it might be per quarter. Or in a sense, it might be per whatever period of time happens when you're paused, which is sort of an infinite kind of divided by 0 sort of issue. So there we go. I hope that helps, and I hope no one has a problem with slowing it down. Like I said, I don't think there's really any particular game mechanic that's going to be so beneficial. Okay, let's get into the second topic. And I'm going to call him Alex. And just so I say his name right, or hopefully he doesn't mind the nickname. Alex suggested, and Dennis had suggested it to me too, that my trains are too short. And I think some other people may have mentioned it. So thank you for your comments. And I definitely agree. So I went and did some mathematics. Yeah, look out, mathematics, right? I'm trying not to get too heavy into mathematics. Now, I don't know exactly what this rate is, but I'm going to assume that the rate is, I mean, obviously we might have traffic that changes the rate, and this is going to vary a little bit. I don't know. Is it the rate that we're actually dropping off cargo? Like, if we expand that a little bit, like this train isn't completely full. Does that affect the rate, or is it just because we have this number of cars? So just for simplicity's sake, for the moment, I'm going to assume that this rate is based on the number of cars that are going back and forth, and not necessarily that they're empty or anything. Especially if you would expect one of these trains to be completely, you see this one's not completely full of fuel. Does that change the rate, or does it base the rate on the 42, or does it base the rate that you only dropped 39? So, yeah. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to try to compartmentalize this, and I think that for my estimating purposes, this is fine. So I came in here, and I know what my rate is for each of these. Now, each of these is dropping off these 3 lines at the bottom here. There are, quote, main oil fuel trains, right? So what I would look at is my demand at Rochester. Can we get Des Moines from here? Yep, Des Moines. And last and least, as you'll see in a second, is Norfolk. So I looked at the number of the amount of demand that we have for the fuel, and here and here. Now, people have talked about the city growth, and I'm not going to worry about that too much right now, because I'm not really prepared to give the city everything it needs, and each one of them has a sizable increase over what the original was. So this one's not quite twice, but neither is this one, right? They're not, none of them, so they're all in a pretty close to the same ratio. Like, the size of the town now is not double what the initial size was. It's, I don't know, some percentage, 80% more or 70% more, whatever it is. So, but it's all kind of similar, right? 60, 70, 70. Now, I'm not 100% sure how all this works, but again, I'm trying to compartmentalize to understand each of the game mechanics. The bottom line is I took an estimate of 70, just because for good round numbers, 132. Yeah, I guess that's not a good round number. But I then said, okay, let me look, given those numbers, how much am I actually supplying now? What is my rate? So Des Moines is only at 54 rate, and I have 12 trains on it. Well, that's 12 equals 54. Well, how many cars would I need going back and forth if I wanted this to be 100? Well, it's really pretty logical, right? It's just a ratio there. I would need 23 cars going back and forth. Same thing with Norfolk, did the same logic. We got 28 with 8 cars. Well, how many would I need if I wanted to get to 32? I would need 10 cars. Same thing with Rochester. We got 56. We got 22 cars, and we get 56 rate, so that would equate to 27 and a half cars. So now the reason that's important, and the reason I went through all of that, is because I also went into one of our depots, and the general suggestion, and it seems like a good one, is that if you're going to buy a vehicle, the best thing to do, and I'm sure it depends on how mountainous your map is, we'll just do what I did here, is come up to the general. And if you look, the general's good right now because it doesn't have any cars, but since we're talking about tank cars, let's add tank cars. So how many tank cars can a general train hold? Right? Because that's important, because we're trying to cut down on the number of trains that are going back and forth so we don't have as much running cost. We now know how many cars the city would need every 20 minutes, regardless of whether it's a year or a quarter. So 20-minute period, is 1 year. So that's why I think they're giving you that period on this right here. Like, so 2 cars is, 2 trains. Now we're already doing it through the rate, but if you had to sit there and calculate it, this means you could calculate based on the time, knowing that the 20 minutes is the interval in real life that this Rochester is going to need fuel, or Des Moines, or whatever one I'm pointing at. It doesn't matter. So there we go. So having said all that, I went in and I figured out that the general, if you just sit here and click add cars, right, I'm not going to do it that much because I already did, can do 12 cars. Well, there's 5. This one I'll do because you can at least see them in the screen. All right, until we get to pour. Right, there we go. So if we take one back off, if you look, that's 12 cars there. So a general is good for pulling 12 cars. So then my next question was, well, how does the running cost compare? Because that's what I'm worried about. I mean, obviously the cost of the thing is an issue, but to be honest, if you compare the number of cars to the cost and the number of cars, if you compare the number of cars to the running cost, this number right here, is 33,000. It's the same for all of them. So if you go up to the general, 79,000, right, from this, I'm putting at the Baldwin there, but if we go up to the general, it's the same ratio for each of these. Like if you take 12 and divide it into 79, I think you get like 1.4 or whatever it was. You get the same ratio here. This Baldwin can carry 27. It's the exact same ratio, pretty close, within rounding errors type thing. So in other words, if we get the Moogle here, yeah, our running cost is a lot higher, but we could haul 33 cars. I say all of that because we really don't want on any of our lines, if you go back and remember the numbers, I said when it comes to the Des Moines line, we want 23 cars. When it comes to Norfolk, we want 10. And when it comes to Rochester, we want 28. So does that make sense that we really don't want to buy Moogle trains, if nothing else, for 2 reasons probably, if we come back into here. The Moogle train is a bit limited. It goes 75, so you're kind of paying for some extra power to some degree there, or extra capability, though I'm not sure how much that matters. I mean, they are much more expensive, but we're not going to be able to take advantage of the 75 kilometers because we can only go 50. Right? This tank car is limited to 50, so we're not going to be able to take advantage of its top speed, but even more important, based on the running cost being this high, we would want to be able to pull 33 cars. And if there's no station that wants 33 cars, there's no real point in buying the Moogle. Now, the Baldwin will certainly be overkill. Now, I think, the advantage would be if you got a hilly train, or like the stopping and starting. If you expect a lot of traffic and you're going to be caught up at railroad signals, I'm sure it gets off the line faster and pulls hills better. So there could be a reason for going with the Moogle, but right now we're pretty flat here. There's maybe a few hills, but I feel pretty comfortable saying that this Baldwin would be really a good train because it would hit the maximum speed. We could carry up to 27 cars with it, which will do most of our cities. Now, when it comes to like Norfolk that only needs 10, the general might be the better train. So yeah, I hope that works. Like, I hope I've said everything I meant to say. And if we come back and look at our lines, we've just got way more trains. So what I'm thinking of doing, just as much as anything, because I already own the trains and I don't want these things to get, I'm a little bit worried what will happen to my system if I make one of these 28 long. But what I would like to do is just sort of bite the bullet of redoing each of these. Now we'll talk about the supply and the city demand and how this production's working in a bit. But what I want to do now, at least partially on camera till we run out of money, is come in here and say, okay, what do we want to do with oil fuel Rochester? We want, let's just say 28 cars going back and forth. The
The Baldwin only goes back, the Baldwin only will carry 27, which is close enough, really, in all practical purposes. But what I would like to do is take two of these trains and just make them each about 14 cars. So the problem is, I think it would be nice. It's going to cost us a lot of money, not only for the vehicles, but my question that I still don't know, and I'm not going to worry about too much now, is, this train's empty, which is great. It would be a good time to sell it. Now, this is the value of the vehicle. So I think what I want to do is just sell this vehicle at this point, right? Because I have enough of the other ones. Now, the Baldwin, I want to ask myself, well, what do we want to do with Norfolk? Do we want to keep a general at 12 or 10 cars, right? So I'm thinking we probably do. So one of these we could probably say send back to the depot, but then the problem is I don't know which depot it's going to go to. And at that point, I'm just saying, well, you know what? Do we just sell off this other Baldwin and just... Well, these are the Baldwin, like, really old ones, but I would sort of like to, because we spent money on these things. Now, one of these Baldwins is a little bit older than the other ones. Let's take a look here again. They're all just, relatively young. Now, keep in mind, some of that time, I'm not sure what happens, but I think this time is all adjusted now to the new time of 1/4 speed. So, I don't know. So, we'll see. So... Having said all that, I want to get another train off of here. I kind of want to just switch it over to Norfolk. Or do we switch this train, this general here, if we send him back to the depot? Now, he's going to probably be running back and forth. We might want to wait until, he drops off his stuff and then say, go back to the depot. And then send him off on, add the trains and whatnot, the cars that we want at that point. Or do we just sell them and go back? And maybe you guys have a sense of what's better, but I think I'm just going to, grunt my teeth and bite the bullet when it comes to the cost of all of this and within the bounds of what I can do a little bit efficiently. Yeah, see, these guys are always going to be full. There's never going to be a great time for me to sell these guys and upgrade them. So let's just go ahead and... Yeah, I guess we can manage vehicles might be the best way to do it. And then we'll come up to... Whoa. Okay, let's close that. Vehicle manager. Yeah, why can't I select all the lines? Because I got it filtered to trains. Well, is that a good... Oh, I got it filtered to buses. Never mind. I don't know how that happened. But in any event, there we go. Now we got it filtered to train lines. So if we were to come over here to Norfolk, I think I would want to sell these two, or do we just upgrade one of them, right? So we sell this one, say. Yeah. And by the way, we do have more monies, but let's get an idea of what this would... Yeah, replace. Clone. Yeah, sell selected vehicle. Yes. And then these are both old. These are old, the Baldwin 6 wheels, the original train. So I'm not sure if it's better to replace it. Yeah, I guess we should. In this particular case, I think maybe we should just try to replace it. Let's see. And what I'm thinking of is because we need 10, I may just go for the gusto and sort of max out this train. So in order to get the rate, but I'd rather maybe supply a little extra and not be 100% efficient, we would add a general. And then we would add 12 cars. And basically what we're doing is just clicking here until it goes to poor. Right? And then we'll take one off so it stays mediocre. Does that make sense? Good. Okay, so. And then we want to, we're just replacing it so we don't have to change the line. And then we're going to need 2.8 million. So let's see, can we come here without too much? No, I didn't really want to repay. Okay, borrow 2.8. So by the way, I paid rather than let the money run up, I was just repaying the loan, knowing we were going to do this. So even though I ran up about, I think we should have like, 7 million that we could have borrowed. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully this becomes more efficient. Let's see, can we go right back to here? Yes. Okay, cool. So we didn't have to we didn't have to redo this again. So there we go. So our new line for Norfolk will have one train now that's carrying 12 cars. And it will be an upgraded train, newer train, so we don't have to worry too much. Though I don't see any financial benefit other than like pollution, which is sort of a strange way to punish you, I guess. But maybe that hurts the size of your towns because you're polluting the area. And I'm not sure, do trains that are most, like this train never goes near a town because we have Norfolk getting supplied by truck. So I'm not real sure if that's even an issue. So let's see what else we can afford to do. Now, I think Des Moines is probably the one that's sort of screaming out the most for an improvement in the sense of we want 23 and we only have 12. Rochester, we have to up this, but we sort of have a little bit more cars on there, a few more cars. So let's see, like in other words, we have a better percentage. But anyway, let's just say, we'll see if we can't afford to upgrade. Now, the question here would be, one train with 23 cars, which we may sort of overestimate that. So my thought here would be that we get rid of this one general because it can only haul it can only haul 12, right? So we don't want the general train, so we're going to sell that. Hopefully that'll be a little bit of bucks in our pocket. And then we're going to take this train and we want to modify it. All right, so now we currently have 7, and this is where it's a pretty goofy. Let's come down here, and so we got 1, 2, 3, 7. So I'm going to count 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Now we can check that because each of these cars holds 7. So let me just take the capacity, 168 divided by 7 on my calculator is 24. So we know we got the right number of cars. And then I don't know why they do this. Like, why have that scroll bar? But you can see we're still mediocre. And that train, I don't know what other problems I'm causing, but we're going to have fun doing it, right? At least I hope we are. One train should supply the majority of what we need, but we're going to see. Yeah, we may have to redo our tracks before this is all over. But what do we need? So we need 3.5 million. So let's head back over here and there we go, right? And then we should be able to come right down here to, yep. There we go. So now we only have one train on that line. So now what did that do to our account? We're up to 8.5, so we can only do like another 1.5 million at the most, which I don't think is going to get us right where we want to be. But I think what we could do is make Rochester as good as possible, as well as possible. We can make it as efficient as possible. So what I would do here is say I'm going to get rid of one of these trains. It's a shame we would have to buy the cars, I guess. I don't know. Again, this is where I don't know if it's the best thing to do or not. But I just want 2 trains. Yeah, let's see. Before I sell that one, let's just see about how many of these, what do these cars cost? 200,000 a piece. So if we can go, let's just borrow. We're going up to 10 million. We'll just borrow as much as we can. So we can get 9 more cars. So do we and eventually we want these to have, so what I'm thinking of here is that we would have 2 trains that are going back and forth rather than making these things. I mean, I know I already have one that's really, really, really long, but I'm thinking that we have these trains here that are, we're kind of limited by doing 14 and 14 to get to the approximately 28 that we want. So I'm thinking what we should do is maybe modify 2 of these. We're not going to be able to quite buy enough. Now we could, if we could send them all back to the depot, then maybe we could take those other 6, but the heck with it. We're going to leave those 6 on there because we don't have enough. So this is 18. In other words, if I add 9 more to these 2 cars, then this one would get us really close to the 27 we want, and then over time we could just get rid of this one and put more cars on here. There we go. Does that work? All right, so let's modify this one. Edit selected vehicle. Yep, we already are. And let's put 5 more on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 million. All right, so now we got 11 on that one. And then just to balance things out a little bit, we'll modify this one by adding 1, 2, 3. Oh, we can't do 4. Okay, so let's take one off. All right, there we go. So total right now we have 26. So even though my math wasn't quite right with the amount that we have in our account, we are now, I think, set up on these lines. If we come back and look at the line manager, look, we only have, far fewer trains. So I think we just cut our running cost quite significantly. And what I would like to do now, just because I've taken 26 minutes or so to explain all of that, I would like to just play some time forward, obviously. And let's close the line manager so we can just see the trains. And I'm thinking that I'm not sure what this signaling is going to do, but hopefully we don't have huge issues. Like, I think there might be some issues up here, but we got a lot of signaling. All right, now what is this guy doing? What are you? Norfolk Oil. Yeah, okay, so now he's waiting. That's another comment and question. I think we're better off with these lines. Now let's go to the line manager. And I think I want to take them off of waiting every place and just let them flow and see what happens. All right, so now they're not going to wait any place. They're just going to keep going, and that means they might not be perfectly efficient. Yeah, look, he's growing drastically now. I want to see how we do with all of this. We've got a pretty massive train here waiting in the block. So does he fit in this? Not quite. That's all right. I think that's okay, because they'll just, the problem's going to be if we get another long train, but we have so few trains now, right? So in other words, it's, we're not waiting in these stations any longer, so we'll see. There's not too much chance they'll run into each other. I mean, trains crossing in the night is always going to be a bit of an issue. Now, I do want to do something with this one as well, because obviously, but we don't really have the money necessarily to do that. And we did ramp up our capacity, so I need to make sure that we're of a rate that we're getting enough oil to here, and same thing with down there. So that's where I think I'd like to, again, for the sake of the video, in some ways, just sort of pause it, recollect my thoughts, and come at you guys with as much information as possible. Now, according to the internet, which is always accurate, the length of the train doesn't matter relative to the platform. It's more about, are you trying to pick up more than the platform can hold? So just as a side note, if we don't go over 27 cars, 27 times 7 is 189. So now the problem we might have here is that we're trying to split this up between 2. So I think what we're going to want to do is put another platform on here, or the ability to have more cargo, which I think the easiest and most efficient way might be just to put another track on here. You can see this guy's leaving like very empty, so he's not going to be overly efficient, but hopefully our efficiency will ramp up, and that's what I would like to do after I pause here for a minute. So let me pause it, and I'll be back, when things settle down, so you guys can see what's what. All right, see you in a second. Well, that didn't take long for us to have our first problem. This train is a bit long. And the problem is, my little thing here is not going to work, right? He came in, but he couldn't reverse his direction. It's not like he magically shrunk himself in this distance in order to be able to get back onto this track. Now, the good news is we can do a fair estimate as to how much longer we need to make this. All right, I would say, if we need to make this like twice as long. Does that make sense? This is about the middle of the screen. And the reason I'm measuring this like this is because I want to go do the same thing to the other end of this guy's stop. Now, this guy is train number 9, and he is on our Des Moines line. So let's keep another thing in mind. If we come to here is probably the best way to say it. So this guy's 24. He could be 3 more trains long. If we went up to our maximum of 27 on this Baldwin class, we might add some in the future. So what I want to do is go another 3 extra train lengths. So we want to come to at least here to add for a 27 long, and then let's have a little bit of a factor of safety and come to here and just say, let's put it on for now. Yeah, see, in the future, he's going to... No, he'll come from here. Yeah, so I messed up because then I didn't add the 3. Yeah, so we want to come up to maybe here. Oh, well, we want to turn... Oh, wait, you did it. Right, and that let him get back over there. Now the problem is we can't have another train coming into here while he's in there. So he'll be sticking out here. So we want to, once he gets off of this track, we want to delete it. And I want to delete this signal. Oh, what happened there? Did something happen there that I kind of missed? No, I guess not. I guess it's normal. So what we then want is we'll put a signal. We probably have to redo our signaling in general. All right, we'll put a signal back here off of where the crossover is. And we really don't necessarily need one right here. And then we want to try to get that length. Yeah, see, we want to get rid of this one. Now, is this one on which side? Yeah, I guess this is fine, but I don't think we really even need this one. I think that one will do. And then because I don't think we're going to get 2 massively long trains in there. And then again, on the other side, they're not all going to be that massively long. So, but there should only really be, at this point, 2 trains coming in here. So I think that's, what do we have? Okay, I didn't see this one. Let's get rid of this one too. There we go. Get rid of that demolish tool before I accidentally delete something I don't want to. It's very potent, that demolish tool. All right, so there we go. So we can let him, let's just play it a little bit and let him figure out that he can go that way. Yep, there he goes. And then now he's off of that track, so I think we can pretty safely delete it. We have to be careful anyway. There you go. All right, so hopefully now when he gets in there, we've got a little bit of extra distance. He can do the turnaround. If he comes in here, he can sit in this intersection, and the other trains can get by, and hopefully we don't have any more than 2 trains there, because if we do, then we're going to have to start, some sort of a waiting system, I guess. There we go. All right, so now let's go, and I just want to pause it again since we got him straightened out on that end. He was the Des Moines one, right? Just make sure. We need to do the same thing. I just deleted that. Ay, 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 ay. All right. Let's see. What can we do to make that right? Okay. I think that was not as catastrophic as it might have felt. Oops. Yeah, so I would say that, if we're looking this, I'm going to kind of zoom in. Yeah, this thing is about double the length of the train. And the reason I'm doing that is so we can come down here, and there shouldn't be anybody else. This is now our only train. So if we were to come to Des Moines and say we want to go double this length, which would put us in this neighborhood, and then maybe we just come right to the top of that hill so they don't have to sit. Like if a train's waiting to come in, he'll sit, right, ready to go down the hill. Yeah, I think, by this road, if we went, hopefully this will be right. We can always change it if we have to, but. Right, and then we'll put a signal like here. And this time we're going to be hopefully and see this just sort of all becomes extra track, doesn't it? Unless we have more trains waiting in there, but certainly this. Yeah, I guess it's better to not pay for this track. Even though I think we probably should have picked the other side. All right, so let's go see which. That time All right, so we're gonna. I don't know. What? Why are you? See that? We don't have a cargo. This is the wasted track over here because it can't drop off cargo because we don't have a. Okay, well, you know what we could do? We can probably get away with. Oops, deleting. Right, and then let's just. That one didn't have to go to that one. Okay. Really? Why did you... I don't want to build it from up there. Let's see. Is it a matter of I'm clicking on the dirt kind of thing? Yeah, there you go. I was clicking on the dirt. Right? No warnings. Very good. So now he can come back into that side. And I think that's fine, right? I don't think it really... a little bit more of a tight turn, but... All right, there we go. So first problem solved now. We're probably going to have the same issue, I would assume. Yeah, let's close that. Down here... No, because it's a little bit further. So for now, I'm not going to mess with this. And then when it comes to their way back, they're going through here, so they should be fine. Other than they're really long and they may mess up our signaling, and they're not. We didn't even upgrade them fully, but there's one of them right now sitting on this track, ready to go this way. And then the other thing, and I think we're going to be okay down here. No, so let's double this one. Let's do the same thing. And this time we won't mess with the wrong track, and we will. Yeah, let's do a little, because I do want to make this reasonably tight. So let's assume, here it's that about the same distance. Let's go a little bit extra, kind of by where that white rock is. And we want to come. Yeah, so we want to come like here. Yeah, let's go back a little bit more. Right, and then just want to kind of keep that over 50 because that's our speed limit for the moment anyway. And then we're going to very carefully delete things we don't want to. All right, we don't need this signal anymore. And we'll put a signal in here just so that they'll wait. And let's make sure that makes some kind of sense with the last signal. Yeah, plenty long, and I don't think we need one coming back out of there. All right, because as soon as this if there's two trains, then this one's going to go this way. But again, there's really only one train here anyway. We just had to make enough that he could turn around, and then I think we're going to be okay right here. We'll keep an eye, and so let me pause it again one more time, and then I'll just come back for a brief update, and then I'll probably do episodes back to back again, and we'll go from there. All right, see you guys in a minute. Hopefully I fast forward more than 30 seconds, but I'll be keeping a close eye on these trains, make sure this super length isn't causing too many problems. See you in a minute.
Super length is causing more problems.
If you look, this guy came down to here. He can't get, because he's so long, he can't get back out. So let me show you. Now, he kind of went the opposite direction. I'm not sure why he didn't take that fuel. It could have been, this is just, by the way, 2 minutes or so. I really didn't fast forward hardly any time or even play any time. He came down here, and then he kind of got stuck. And I'm actually, let's click on this Des Moines line. I'm actually not too worried about him. Like, he shouldn't have done what he did. If you look, this one, he should have gone down to Des Moines. But for whatever reason, he decided to come in here, which is kind of fine. But at the same time, if he comes in here later on, he's not going to be able to reverse and get back out over into here. Does that make sense? So even though I don't understand why he came in here with the fuel, he's still going to have a problem when he comes back from Des Moines and tries to drop stuff off here. So I think what I want to do is call this an episode, but I think we really have to rethink this intersection so that he can go straight through here, which shouldn't be too big a deal, other than he's going to be an awful long train if we just bring it straight out this way. But then again, we don't really have that many trains because they're so massive. So what I'm thinking we'll do in the next episode is come out of here and into there and solve that problem. Now, the other issue that I have is that we really don't have a lot of money. So I'm hoping the other trains work out a little bit more smoothly, which really haven't let enough time go forward to find that out yet. So there we go. So let's just see what happens. I'm not going to fast forward much of any time, maybe enough to get a few bucks. Remember, we're maxed out on our loan, so we're kind of like right up against it. We need to keep making money. But I have a feeling if he gets reset properly, he'll go down, and then hopefully he gets a ton of fuel picked up here and takes all that fuel. Yeah, look, he's got 26 more fuel he'll take to Des Moines. So what he did is not a bad thing, but let's see. And I think, to try to get into redesigning this intersection right now is a bit much. All right, so I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know your comments. Like I said, I'm going to do back-to-back here, so I may not get them immediately, but I will definitely react 2 episodes from now or so, most likely. All right, thank you guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Take care.